Hello, we're here for another reading of A Course in Miracles. Today it's going to be the preface, the third section, what it says. So it begins with nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Um, if ever I have trouble in my mind, because trouble in my life is a projection of trouble in my mind, just going back to this puts me in the right place. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. This is what the Course leads us to remember, leads us to focus upon. Okay, so this is how A Course in Miracles begins. It makes a fundamental distinction between the real and the unreal, between knowledge and perception, and our perception can always be corrected. Knowledge is truth. Under one law, the law of love or God, truth is unalterable, eternal, and unambiguous. It can be unrecognized, but it cannot be changed. It applies to everything that God created, and only what He created is real. It is beyond learning because it is beyond time and process. It has no opposite, no beginning, and no end. It merely is. So we can always rest in what merely is. The world of perception, on the other hand, is the world of time, of change, of beginnings and endings. It is based on interpretation, not on facts. It is the world of birth and death, founded on the belief in scarcity, loss, separation, and death. It is learned rather than given, selective in its perceptual emphases, unstable in its functioning, and inaccurate in its interpretations. So what stood out to me here is the world I see with physical eyes. It's based on interpretation, not on facts. That's a pretty wonderful thing to remember as we go back to our source. And it's inaccurate in its interpretations. So if I'm accepting the world's interpretation and I feel disquiet in my heart, it's the inaccuracy that's causing the disquiet. And going into truth and allowing the perception to be set right, that is the fix. That is the fix for anything. From knowledge and perception, respectively, two distinct thought systems arise, which are opposite in every respect. In the realm of knowledge, no thoughts exist apart from God, because God and His creation share one will. The world of perception, however, is made by the belief in opposites and separate wills in perpetual conflict with each other and with God. What perception sees and hears appears to be real, because it permits into awareness only what conforms to the wishes of the perceiver. Isn't that interesting? It permits into awareness only what conforms to the wishes of the perceiver. So when we believe we're running into something we don't like, we can get reminded this conforms to the wishes of the perceiver. And where do you go to get yourself straightened out? In. Clearly, I'm confused. If I'm in a situation I don't like, where I feel victim to some circumstance, where do I go to get that sorted out? In. And I have to get reminded the world conforms to the wishes of the perceiver. That's a huge one for me. This leads to a world of illusions, a world which needs constant defense, precisely because it is not real. And as I become more committed to feeling, to noticing how I'm feeling, I can feel the constant defense, and I can keep stopping, resetting. And it's like the whole day becomes a reset because you can feel that constant defense, defending against love. When you have been caught in the world of perception, you are caught in a dream. You cannot escape without help, because everything your senses show merely witnesses to the reality of the dream. I'm going to underline that. When I underline it for myself. Okay, so where is it? Everything your senses show merely witnesses to the reality of the dream. God has provided the answer, the only way out, the true helper. It is the function of His voice, His Holy Spirit, to mediate between the two worlds. He can do this because, well, on the one hand, He knows the truth. On the other, He also recognizes our illusions, but without believing in them. It is the Holy Spirit's goal to help us escape from the dream world by teaching us how to reverse our thinking and unlearn our mistakes. So, why are we here? To reverse our thinking and unlearn our mistakes. Forgiveness is the Holy Spirit's great learning aid in bringing this thought reversal about. However, the Course has its own definition of what forgiveness really is, just as it defines the world in its own way. Okay. The world we see merely reflects our own internal frame of reference, the dominant ideas, wishes, and emotions in our minds. Projection makes perception. We look inside first, decide the kind of world we want to see, and then project that world outside, making it the truth as we see it. That's just amazing to think about for a moment, because I do feel subject to the world so much of the time, afraid of what the world's going to do, afraid of a future, of a result. And we decide. We look inside first, decide the kind of world we want to see, and then project that world outside, making it the truth as we see it. We make it true by our interpretations of what it is we are seeing. If we are using perception to justify our own mistakes, our anger, our impulses to attack, our lack of love, in whatever form it may take, we will see a world of evil, destruction, malice, envy, and despair. All of this we must learn to forgive, not because we are being good and charitable, but because what we are seeing is not true. We have distorted the world by our twisted defenses and are therefore seeing what is not there. As we learn to recognize our perceptual errors, we also learn to look past them or forgive. So, looking past our perceptual errors, my error of perception, that is forgiving. At the same time, we are forgiving ourselves, looking past our distorted self-concepts to the self that God created in us and as us. Sin is defined as lack of love. Since love is all there is, sin in the sight of the Holy Spirit is a mistake to be corrected rather than an evil to be punished. So it's a misperception. We get our misperception corrected. It is not about wrongdoings ever. It's always about misperception. Our sense of inadequacy, weakness, and incompletion comes from the strong investment in the scarcity principle that governs the whole world of illusions. From that point of view, we seek in others what we feel is wanting in ourselves. We, quote, love another in order to get something ourselves. And as I go deeper and deeper into the thoughts that are in my mind, I can see this, trying to get things from people in subtle ways, ways that you've hidden from yourself. And all of these discoveries are helpful because I can take these thoughts to the Holy Spirit and say, this is what's in my mind. Help me see it correctly. Help me see it differently. And every time I get help with that. Okay, that in fact is what passes for love in the dream world. There can be no greater mistake than that, for love is incapable of asking for anything. So in this journey, we learn what is love. It's not what we think it is, but we do remember what it is. Only minds can really join, and whom God has joined, no man can put asunder. It is, however, only at the level of Christ mind, one shared mind, that true union is possible and has, in fact, never been lost. The little I seeks to enhance itself by external approval. I have to be careful here. I'm on YouTube. I put videos out and I catch myself watching how many views I've had, or how many comments I get, or how many thumbs up I get. That's the search for external approval. So maybe the whole reason I'm doing this is to encounter the desire to get something from you, you know, give to me, give me your comments, give me your thumbs up, give me your subscribe to me, pay attention to me, recognize me. I can hear all these thoughts. I have been hearing them since yesterday, and I notice I'm checking how many people have seen it. So exposing these thoughts is helpful. You don't have to mention it in public like this, like I'm doing. If you don't feel comfortable, you can just go into Holy Spirit and say, yeah, I've noticed some thoughts. Here they are. What do we do? What can you do to help me? You can correct my perception. So wouldn't it be interesting if the whole reason I'm doing this is to encounter my desire for attention and to let all of those thoughts go? That would be wonderful. I'll keep going if it helps me keep being honest about the thoughts in my mind that I'm still attached to, and if it helps me let those go. All right, where am I? Oh, external approval. Okay. The little I seeks to enhance itself by external approval, external possessions, and external, quote, love. The self that God created needs nothing. It is, just turn the page, forever complete, safe, loved, and loving. It seeks to share rather than to get, to extend rather than project. It has no needs and wants to join with others out of their mutual awareness of abundance. The special relationships of the world are destructive, selfish, and childishly egocentric. Yet, if given to the Holy Spirit, these relationships can become the holiest things on earth, the miracles that point the way to the return to heaven. So every relationship we have, every perceived interaction we have, can become a miracle. The world uses its special relationships as a final weapon of exclusion and a demonstration of separateness. The Holy Spirit transforms them into perfect lessons in forgiveness and in awakening from the dream. Each one is an opportunity to let perceptions be healed and errors corrected. Each one is another chance to forgive oneself by forgiving the other. And each one becomes still another invitation to the Holy Spirit and to the remembrance of God. Perception is a function of the body and therefore represents a limit on awareness. Perception sees through the body's eyes and hears through the body's ears. It evokes the limited responses which the body makes. The body appears to be largely self-motivated and independent, yet it actually responds only to the intentions of the mind. If the mind wants to use it for attack in any form, it becomes prey to sickness, age, and decay. When I hear those three words, fear, fear pops up in me, and every time, and it just shows me you're still attached to ego. You're still attached to fear. You're still afraid you're doing it wrong. You're still afraid you'll never get this. What you're afraid of is love, but you're saying you're afraid of all these other things to try so hard to block love out. So what I've become aware of on this journey is how hard I try to block love out, and how can I find that every day and go in and release that every day by bumping into it, by noticing how I'm feeling, and by admitting it, by telling you as soon as I read those words, I have an inner like, something bad's going to happen. I'm afraid of love. That's why that's happening in my mind. And I do what I can to block it out. I could talk about how I allow love to extend through everything to me. That I'm learning that too, right? But I'm more interested in how I am blocking love, because when I notice where I'm doing it, I can stop, I can go in, I can work with spirit, I can sincerely ask to have my perception changed. And that's pretty much the most important thing the Course has taught me. Okay. If the mind accepts the Holy Spirit's purpose for it, instead, it becomes a useful way of communicating with others, invulnerable as long as it is needed, and to be gently laid by when its use is over. Of itself, it is neutral, as is everything in the world of perception. Whether it is used for the goals of the ego or the Holy Spirit depends entirely on what the mind wants. The opposite of seeing through the body's eyes is the vision of Christ, which reflects strength rather than weakness, unity rather than separation, and love rather than fear. The opposite of hearing through the body's ears is communication through the voice for God, the Holy Spirit, which abides in each of us. His voice seems distant and difficult to hear because the ego, which speaks for the little separated self, seems to be much louder. This is actually reversed. The Holy Spirit speaks with unmistakable clarity and overwhelming appeal. No one who does not choose to identify with the body could possibly be deaf to his messages of release and hope, nor could he fail to accept joyously the vision of Christ in glad exchange for his miserable picture of himself. Christ's vision is the Holy Spirit's gift, God's alternative to the illusion of separation and to the belief in the reality of sin, guilt, and death. It is the one correction for all errors of perception, the reconciliation of the seeming opposites on which this world is based. Its kindly light shows all things from another point of view, reflecting the thought system that arises from knowledge, and making return to God not only possible, but inevitable. What was regarded as injustice done to one by someone else now becomes a call for help and for union. Sin, sickness, and attack are seen as misperceptions, calling for remedy through gentleness and love. Defenses are laid down. I have to stop myself here because when I see sin, sickness, and attack are seen as misperceptions, calling for remedy through gentleness and love. It's less about if I see somebody else seeming to attack for me now, sharing how it is for me now. If I see, let's say, somebody on the news appears to be speaking viciously, let's say that. So I think, oh, that one's attacking. I could see that one is calling for love, but it's bigger now. It's not about understanding a separate one, just my perception that one human looks like it's verbally attacking another human means it's my call for love. Why am I perceiving this? Because I wanted to perceive this. So it's the call for love to extend through the ego, the false me, through the body, and allowing the body to be used to extend love in every way, and allowing the perception to be entirely corrected. Entirely corrected means we give up this world as we know it. We briefly experience a world of harmonic differentiation and realize we don't even need a world, so we let it go. But we don't have to jump ahead to that. We can just notice how we're feeling today. That's our starting point. And remember that it's always about what we're perceiving, is always about what we wanted. Okay, let's see. I have to find my place. Oh, I went back a page. Okay. Defenses are laid down because where there is no attack, there is no need for them. Our brothers' needs become our own because they are taking the journey with us as we go to God. Without us, they would lose their way. Without them, we could never find our own. that's helping me to remember to go back about whatever I'm perceiving. It's always about what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, because how I perceive what I call the other, who has never been other, it's about what I'm thinking, what thoughts I'm holding on to. Am I holding on to ego's thoughts and blocking out spirit's thoughts? Forgiveness is unknown in heaven, where the need for it would be inconceivable. However, in this world, forgiveness is a necessary correction for all the mistakes that we have made. To offer forgiveness is the only way for us to have it, for it reflects the law of heaven that giving and receiving are the same. Heaven is the natural state of all the sons of God as He created them. Such is their reality forever. It has not changed because it has not changed because it has been forgotten. So even though I forgot it, it's unchanged. To offer forgiveness, rereading here, is the only way for us to have it, for it reflects the law of heaven that giving and receiving are the same. This is such a core concept. Giving and receiving are the same because love is the only thing that is real. The only thing that can be given and received is love. But here in this world, where there seem to be so many separate things, we think giving and receiving is very different. And every time during our day we feel off, we're attached to a thought that we are using to misperceive, to not understand that giving and receiving are the same. So we can sink into the truth that giving and receiving are the same as we stop frequently throughout the day to offer our thoughts to Spirit that are blocking this remembrance that giving and receiving are the same, that we're truly in abundance. Okay, forgiveness is the means by which we will remember. Through forgiveness, the thinking of the world is reversed. The forgiven world becomes the gate of heaven, because by its mercy we can at last forgive ourselves. Holding no one prisoner to guilt, we become free. Acknowledging Christ in all our brothers, we recognize His presence in ourselves. That's how we do it. No exceptions. We have to acknowledge the purity of love in everyone who seems to be other, with no blocks. And that's how we remember that that is what we are. I can intellectually accept that, but the day tells me, my feelings tell me, have I truly accepted it? And so every day, all of time, is just an opportunity to have that resistance to the truth undone in me. Okay, let's see. Acknowledging Christ and all our brothers, we recognize His presence in ourselves, forgetting all our misperceptions, and with nothing from the past to hold us back, we can remember God. Beyond this, learning cannot go. When we are ready, God Himself will take the final step in our return to Him. And this is from somebody who would shudder to only use he and him, and who would shudder to use the word God. But the Course, if the Course is your pathway, it can help you with your perception of male versus female and just allow that whole thing to melt. It can help you with your perception of any words you would call religious, or any words that you believe were misinterpreted in the past by anybody else. It can help you let all that go. It can help you see clearly beyond every facet of separateness to which you have clung before to safety. And it helps you realize that clinging to facets of separateness for safety will never help. And it helps you every day to let go and to be happy. So hope that was helpful for you. Tomorrow, I think, should be very short. I think I'm just doing the introduction, which is very short. So wishing you well. Thank you.